That notion that retail crime is all petty theft is what really has to change, because the criminals win when we believe it.
Back on Closer Look, it's Friday, my second favorite F word.
What's your first?
Oh, food's a good one.
Food. We talked a lot about
What
food.
were you thinking?
I don't know.
Fun is a good one?
That's what I was really...
Frivolity?
I was wondering what the punchline was. We talked a lot about food yesterday, the price of food.
Man, the emails.
Yeah, a lot of reaction. You know what?
A lot of reaction.
And we talked about this on the show yesterday. All these factors about climate change and trade and tariffs are impacting prices. But there's that general sense people just feel they're being gouged, especially after COVID. You've seen sometimes people will compare what a flyer looked like in 2019 compared to a flyer from the grocery store today, and it's wild.
It is crazy. And just walking up and down.
Yeah.
I was in a grocery store a couple of weeks ago and saw a package of chocolate chips. You know, the thing of chocolate chips, $7.99.
That's insane. That is insane, right? And we talk about this grocery code of conduct, and we need to keep a close eye on that, because I feel like it's just going to be a public relations exercise, like the airline passenger bill of rights.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, we're protecting your passenger rights.
We're protecting.
Yeah.
Sure we are.
It's interesting because it kind of segues into tonight's program, because we're going to talk about the cost of things.
Yeah.
The Retail Council of Canada, we spoke about their report back in October. They put out a new report talking about how there's a national crisis in organized theft, basically.
Yes.
Petty shoplifting has turned into massive organized crime. This week there was that crazy bust in Halton Region, like in the Oakville, Burlington area.
Right, yeah.
Where the police dismantled what they're alleging to be an organized crime ring that was trafficking in stolen booze.
Yep.
They seized $1.3 million worth of alcohol, which I still can't get my head around how you can steal that many bottles of booze. But they had allegedly had quite a group of different groups out stealing, and then the booze would be funneled into these core group of people who then sold it on the black market, whether online or even out of their house, the police are alleging. You could show up to the guy's house.
Well, sure. You launch your own Shopify site and away you go.
So, the argument being that this is something happening in retail all over the country, and this is what this report talked about. Rui Rodriguez, who's a loss prevention advisor and an expert there at the Retail Council of Canada, he was on the show, spoke in great detail about this report and what they're hoping to get from levels of government in terms of bail reform and other criminal code amendments. And he's the perfect person to talk to today about this case, because a lot of people are talking about this particular arrest. But as we know, because of our discussion with him, this is a drop in the bucket. This is happening all over the bloody place. It's everywhere. And just what it must be like to be a retailer, especially a small business retailer in this country right now. So we've invited Rui to come back, and excited to hear what he has to say about this.
Earlier this week, police in Halton Region announced the bust of a large-scale liquor trafficking operation that moved more than $1.3 million in stolen booze across the GTA. Essentially, police allege there were 10 different organized theft groups swiping bottles from liquor stores, and that those bottles were then funneled to a group of traffickers who sold them on the black market. When I read those headlines, I immediately thought of one person, Rui Rodriguez, a loss prevention advisor at the Retail Council of Canada. So we asked Rui to join us on the show again to talk about this wild story and why it's definitely not a one-off. Rui, always good to see you. We appreciate you squeezing us in tonight.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
All right, Rui, $1.3 million worth of booze. That's a lot of stolen alcohol. What went through your mind when you read about this bust?
It's something we see a lot of recently, so there's certainly no surprise. Initially through my mind was more great to see the level of collaboration that is going on between the retail and business community and law enforcement to identify the more prolific, more organized enterprise crime cells we see across the country, and then working collaboratively to investigate and prosecute these type of matters. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that these matters are being flushed out, that the fact that shoplifting is no longer hopefully a thought in people's mind, that it's just a victimless property crime, that it does have a much more complex and comprehensive aspect to it, and the level of sophistication that is going on, organization, professionalism, sad to say, at an organized level to commit these crimes, and how big and far spreading it is. So these projects need to be announced, and I know there's more out there that will likely be announced in the near future.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, Rui, you talk about organized crime, and this was definitely organized, according to police, 10 separate theft groups swiping bottles, and then those bottles being funneled up to the ringleaders. This is definitely not petty theft.
No, it's not. And, shoplifting will always be around. Let's not make any mistake about that. The individual who steals first time or a few items here and there, that will continue. But that notion that retail crime is all petty theft is what really has to change, because the criminals win when we believe it. And this is very sophisticated, and enterprises like this, and some of them are international criminal groups that come into Canada and pick Canada because they believe our laws are soft, the consequences are soft. We have all the merchandise that is attractive, from alcohol to apparel to you name it. And it sends a message, if we don't start to take a tougher stance on crime to criminals, that this is okay to perpetrate here. But then it's the connection that we see with other even more severe type of crimes, whether it's human trafficking, the drugs, the guns and gangs. The volume of theft and these dollars are going to funnel other criminal enterprises. And we need to start to work even more closely together to reduce it, eliminate it if we can.
It's a great point, Rui. I often always would wish that I could speak to one of the officers on the inside, because you can imagine $1.3 million in stolen booze. Even if you steal a high-end bottle that's $100, think how much has to get stolen to reach the level of $1.3 million. This is like, it's just constant all day long. They're stealing this stuff.
Yeah, and it truly is. It's very organized. You mentioned the number of entities. And sometimes when police have taken down these organized cells, there's over 20 individuals all involved. Some of them, as I said, have come into country on refugee status, getting others in. Others are local. And then there's the distribution of it. It's much easier, sadly, nowadays to distribute stolen goods, because you don't have to go be in a van selling it at a parking lot, as you used to see in the old days. Now there's so many distribution possibilities, brick and mortars, certainly with illicit marketplaces that resell stolen goods, and then the online marketplace where you can hide behind all of that. You can steal, take it to a warehouse, take it home, sell it online, distribute it through legitimate enterprises that are doing that last mile delivery to people's homes. So you're, as a criminal, you don't have to face that in person and take risk of it possibly being an officer on the other end who's doing a controlled purchase and is going to make an arrest. So it gives criminals more confidence because of the fact that there are so many more ways to distribute without having to be physically in front of the person you're reselling those goods to.
The last time we spoke to you a couple months ago on the podcast, Rui, you just released a national report calling this a national crisis, that this epidemic of organized crime and shoplifting, it was cutting into profits, it was impacting employee safety, also impacting consumer trust. What was the reaction you got from the report, specifically from different levels of government?
It's been positive. I think the report really helped to put a spotlight on the impact at many different levels. The dollar amount, $9.1 billion in 2024 was the report, compared to 2018 at $5 billion. It's almost double. It's not just the losses to retailers. It's the fact that those stolen merchandise that is being resold illegally means we're not collecting tax revenue off the sales. So that's a big economic impact to Canada. Then it's the product being resold. Depending on the product, some of these products have expiry dates, whether it's medicine, over-the-counter drugs and that. And criminals aren't diligent to make sure they're selling legitimate products. So there's also that health impact of what you're buying may not come as originally intended or still stale. So there's this health implications. And then, of course, it's the proliferation of how many more people can be involved in organized crime post-COVID, where we see a lot more, the drug epidemic that we see across this country, and people dealing with those afflictions, or alcoholism, people dealing with hopelessness. Criminals prey upon these individuals to steal on their behalf. So that has also continued to grow. So the report really put a highlight on, there's the economic impact, there's the community safety well-being impact, because we're seeing a lot more weapons being utilized at a much higher rate, on a daily rate, compared to previous years, because the criminals feel there are no consequences to their actions. and they feel it because they're armed. They get arrested and they get released same day. So all of that is really highlighted to government, and happy to report both at a federal and provincial level, the conversations are going well in the sense that there's an open communication now with government around looking at sentencing guidelines, clear definitions of organized retail crime, bail reform, and putting the onus on the criminal to prove why they should be released versus the prosecutor releasing the person because they're innocent until proven guilty. So a lot of the collaboration is starting to grow, and we're hoping for 2026 to have a deeper conversation with the federal government around very specific guidelines. Let's not leave the criminal code too arbitrary to interpret. Let's put in some very specific guidelines on what the consequences need to be for repeat violent offenders and organized crime.
That would be a big win for you and for retailers across the country. We'll keep in touch definitely about that issue. It's something we've been following, bail reform, for a long time. It's interesting. I did learn a lot from our conversation, Rui, the last one, because I do look at these headlines differently now. When I see them, you think of the things you mentioned, like people who are being forced to steal on behalf of some of these organized groups. All that stuff's happening. I'm sure you saw this too, but one of the RCMP detachments in British Columbia put out a release the other day saying that they decided to focus on one neighborhood, one area for the day, and just do a blitz. And they in one day they arrested 15 people, over $5,000 worth of merchandise, including like electronics, meat, gaming systems. It almost felt like it was like just swatting mosquitoes. Like, well, let's go here and just watch these guys. That's happening everywhere, isn't it, Rui?
Yeah, we started 3.5 years ago. We put a call out to our retail partners and police partners and formed the National Retail Crime Task Force. RCC, Retail Council of Canada, facilitates it every single month. We have over 36 police agencies who participate. They don't all show up every month, but they're there. And we organize these targeted enforcement groups. We also organize some community policing activities to show the uniform and show that presence, and some great police services across the country participate. But the target enforcement is really what you described as the blitz. It's identifying either a problem area, individuals that need to be targeted because they're slipping through our custody often. And then the retailers and police pick timeframes where they will, and our next blitz starts December 8th and runs between December 8th and 28th nationally. We will be out there across the country with police services targeting either an area of a city or a specific mall, or targeted specific individuals that have been identified. The goal being to arrest these individuals, build packages on these individuals so the Crown prosecutors see the totality of their criminality, and then showcase the fact that this is not just about shoplifting anymore. So we appreciate that even throughout. We run 4 coordinated blitzes during the year, spring, summer, fall, and then holiday season. But we know a lot of agencies continue to do that now with retailers. And we're very pleased that the law enforcement has come to the table, and now we're seeing more of the prosecutors join in those activities because it does allow them to see the total criminality, right? They may see an individual in front of them for shoplifting 40 times, but not connect the dots.
Yes.
Whereas now through these enforcement, they say, hold on a sec, Rui, I've seen you now for the 10th time. You've breached these conditions. You've clearly demonstrated you're not a good citizen. No, we're not releasing you this time. The disposition is going to be different and more severe. And through these projects, it allows us to all work much more collaboratively, more collectively, and actually start to put a spotlight on those that require the spotlight, those that are causing us the biggest issues.
Rui, I think when you were on last, we talked about this, but let's revisit this hands-off policy where retailers just kind of let thieves do their thing. Is that also a part of the problem?
It is. It can contribute for sure. And there's a complexity as to the reason for it. As I mentioned before, the challenges today for a retailer to have their team or guard companies to have guards involved in making arrests is much more complex. We have no idea what that individual is going to do as a reaction because we see that. We see the violence escalating very quickly. We see weapons being pulled, individuals that are likely not in the right state of mind to begin with, who are much more prone to escalate. So that presents a challenge that if you're going to go back to hands-on, you have to make sure your people are well equipped to know how to de-escalate a situation, disengage if necessary, and keep themselves and the members of the public safe. So it does add complexity. The other side was also the and we're hoping to change that, is what's the point? If you're going to make an arrest of someone and then spend 4 to 5 hours building that file, calling police, waiting for police to attend and take over that investigation and have that individual prosecuted, until recently, if that individual is being released same day on a condition to say, sure, here's a promise to appear in court, do not go back to that retailer, we'll see you come your trial date. That individual goes right back to that retailer and is there brazenly saying, see, you guys can't hold me, and they can't hold me.
Yeah.
And that's demoralizing. So for a lot of retailers, there's also the contemplating, is there a point? And as we get closer with prosecutions to hold on to the individuals that should be held on to, then I would see a time where retailers want to re-engage more to help. Because we do send a message to that criminal for not working collectively that there are no consequences. I know retailers would love to be more involved in that, but we need to know that the consequences will be there, because having that individual come back that same day or next day is demoralizing to the people in that location who worked so hard at identifying them, taking the risk to apprehend them, the law enforcement agency that worked with us to build that file, only to have that person released.
How many times, Rui, do you hear of a retailer, probably a small business owner, who just says, forget it, I can't do this anymore, I can't fight this fight, I'm shutting down?
Yeah, for the smaller business, more prone. However, some bigger businesses have looked at their markets where they're at and assessed the high-risk markets, either for loss or for difficulty in recruiting, or just difficulty in the constant barrage of prolific offenders, repeat offenders coming into their location stealing. So we've seen the examples, both smaller retailers as well as some of the larger, where they've closed up locations in certain areas just because it's not viable, either profitable or too risky to operate, and small businesses that have either closed or moved out of a certain area. So small business closing, there's several examples. Some have had to take and move from a downtown core that's way too prolific, too risky, and move 7 or 8 blocks away and reopen up somewhere else. They don't get the same traffic or same volume, but it's not as risky for them.
That's a great point. Just to bring us back to where we started, what's your message to a person who's on their computer, for example, and sees that bottle of scotch that's half price, and they're like, I don't really know where that came from, but I don't care. I'm just going to buy that because I have to save myself some money too.
Yeah, so I would start with, let's not support organized retail crime, and then back that up by saying, let's be diligent. If you're not buying from the legitimate retailer directly from their website or reputable website, be cautious, do your work. And if you are buying from a resale site, and there's a lot of them, marketplaces, the Facebook marketplaces, the Craigslist, the Kijiji, if you're buying goods that are brand new, never been used, open, full bottles of liquor, and they're half price, the deal is way too good to be true and likely not true. And as consumers, we have to choose not to participate. And that's difficult because supply and demand is what drives a lot of this. As long as there's demand, criminals will supply. And as consumers, yes, it's a great deal to save a few bucks and people are having harder times, but we have to realize we're fueling and funding organized retail crime if we continue to be willing to take that risk and or purchasing goods that we know are too good to be true. So it's really a call to action to just stop buying from sites that are likely not legitimate and goods are likely stolen.
Which is so difficult, right? Because it goes back to what we talked about, how people think this is a victimless crime. And you know what? I'm struggling. I'm going to be able to get this bottle for half price. It's a tough one, Rui.
And it's a circle, right? Because as we do that, inflation goes up, cost of goods goes up. It will cost us all regardless, right? At some point, and it's not about the retailer trying to make up their profit by increasing price. It's just general. From an economy perspective, if we're fueling this type of enterprise and we're not fueling legitimate enterprises that operate and can operate within our communities, generate tax revenue, generate and be part of our economy, then everybody suffers. Jobs suffer. We all suffer.
Well said. Rui, before we let you go, anything we didn't cover tonight that maybe we should have?
No, but I thank you for continuing to drive the message amongst your community. And I hope that your listeners take something away from it. And if they can help is, one, be more vocal, talk to their MPs, and then two, make the right choice. When you're purchasing the goods, support the retailers in Canada that employ our Canadians, and don't support the criminals.
Always something to learn, Rui, when you're on the program, and we appreciate it. There's Rui Rodriguez, Loss Prevention and Risk Management at the Retail Council of Canada. Thanks, Rui. Good to see you as always.
My pleasure.
I still can't get over the number of $1.3 million in stolen booze.
That's a lot of Glenfiddich, man.
But even that, like a good bottle is $150, $175, right? You know, I only buy one a week, man. I don't know how much it is. No, I don't ever buy
You
that.
obviously have more expensive taste than I do.
That. But imagine the rate at which you'd have to steal alcohol
Yeah, it is wild.
to get $1.3 million worth of it. Now, the police operation, they said, was a 4-month operation. We assume they seized proceeds from alleged proceeds from before that. But it's a mind-boggling number. And I think about that example we talked with Rui about in BC, where they kind of kept their eyes on an area for the whole day and just kept arresting people. It's like swatting mosquitoes.
Yeah.
This guy tried to steal some beef, which, you know, again, prices are skyrocketing, as we heard yesterday about beef too.
Right, yeah.
And it comes down to that question of, you know, you're anonymously on a website at home and you see a bottle of your favorite booze for half price or even, you know, a third of the price. It's hard not to click.
Well, and how many people think, you know, it's the LCBO. They make millions upon millions upon millions. They won't even feel it.
That's right.
Big corporation. You know?
That's right. Well, even 1.3 million is still a drop in the bucket for how much money the LCBO.
My God.
But it's it's a wild amount of money,
and we feel the pinch at the end of it, right?
And I wasn't lying to Rui. I do look at these crime stories differently than I do just the organized element of it. Is wild. And so I'm glad we had a chance to talk to Rui. He's a very knowledgeable person, and we're definitely going to have him back on the show in the new year as we keep hearing more about bail reform.
Absolutely. All right, it's a Friday night. Let's kick off our weekend. Tonight's program, as always, produced by Derek Turner. For Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Have a wonderful weekend. See you Monday night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.